She just stopped visiting entirely. Did you ever see her again? After in my own little world, I shake my head before remembering the futility of the gesture. Mention the letter. And yeah, the memory of that single letter Awanako sent me comes back to my mind. I never saw her again, but after was sent to Yamaku, she wrote me one letter. Lily's face shows an expression I know well. I've piqued her interest. I'd be slightly offended that it's simply a matter of curiosity for her, but she's never been very good at masking her reactions. In hindsight, it really didn't say much. What was going on in my old class, how she was faring, and almost as an afterthought that it was probably best for both of us that we didn't see each other again. After reading it, I ended up reassessing a lot of things I thought I'd managed to work out. For the most part, the letter reminded me that the world around me was still moving, and just how much I'd become isolated from it. And I guess it also reminded me of what I'd lost. She gives the information some thought before her face lights up in realization. No doubt she's worked out that it was this letter which had contributed to my angst during that lunch on the rooftop. It's a rare sight to see Lily quite so lost for words. Her entire persona is a little deflated from her earlier rapt interest. As charismatic as she is, in the end, that isn't any replacement for life nor relationship experience, and I need to do something real quick, so I'll be right back. And we are back. Perhaps it is better that she sent it than not. How's that? It can be difficult to work out how to best communicate with those you haven't met in a long time. All the more so considering your separate situations. Instead of doing what was easiest, she built up the courage to talk to you one last time. Not only for her sake, but from how it sounds for yours as well. Maybe. I don't hate her for it. Not that I really ever did, but I don't know. Probably a more non-committal answer that I should give, but it wasn't without cause. I've never looked at the situation from Wanako's perspective like that before. Seconds pass in silence before Lily speaks again. Moving to Yamaku must have been hard for you, having your friends and even your girlfriend taken from you for no fault of your own. The worst of it passed while I was in the hospital. When all that surrounds you is four white walls and a small television, your mind takes on a life of its own. It's like my old school, I guess. I just try not to dwell on what's happened and keep thinking ahead. All that's reminiscing does is get me down, and it's largely thanks to you that it feels like things are finally getting back on track. That's pleasing to hear, Hisao. She lowers her face slightly, her expression pensive. I guess I went too far and embarrassed her. I suppose you went through something a bit like what I did when you entered Yamaku anyways, right? I imagine the vast majority of our school students did, after all. You said yourself that you made friends in your old school. I can't imagine many followed you. Lily's deep smile drops, her expression unmistakably darkening. Even her hands retreat to her lap. After a long while, she speaks. Hisao, can you promise not to tell anyone else what I'm about to? I promise. She looks slightly taken aback by my serious tone, but then relents and smiles weakly before continuing. When I moved to Yamaku, I did regret losing the friends I'd had at my other school. But there was one person whom I most regretted not seeing. He was the reason I took up English as a future career. He? Considering she came from an all-girls school, that can't have been a schoolmate then. I rejected the confessions I'd received until then for him. Every time I improved my English skills, his praise was my most treasured reward. It's funny, isn't it? Someone like me, able to boast about the people who have set eyes on me, liking someone so utterly unattainable as my tutor. It's surely the most ridiculous thing. Did you? She quickly shakes her head from side to side. I couldn't. Even then, I knew it was impossible. A silence reigns over both of us. So she likes the older men, okay. Yeah, I'm older than 19 or 18. I'm almost 20. Jeez, that's a weird thought. Anyways, this does seem to explain her ardent focus on her future in teaching English, but I can't help thinking of her confession to me. She lost him without ever letting her feelings be known. Did she somehow fear that would happen again, but with me? I don't really know what to make of it. I've heard such relationships before. Taboos born of such things as puberty and youth. The fact that she has had the good judgment not to act on it, though, is heartening. I know this must sound strange, but please don't think of me. Why would I think any less of you for that? To be honest, I think he must have been a very nice person if you liked him so much. Not only that, but you stopped yourself before going too far. For a moment, she looks somewhat lost. Most unexpectedly, though, it isn't a second before she starts to laugh. The sound takes me off guard. It's not a giggle, nor a restrained chuckle, but honest and genuine laughter. I find myself smiling, not just at her display of relief and happiness, but for her to trust me enough to let me see this most private of secrets. Before I realize it, I feel her palms touching my face. Her touch is gentle as ever, with her thumb slowly stroking my cheek. You're kind, Hisao. I really do love you. Seeing her face like this, with her palm gently caressing my face, I think tonight has been a wonderful night. I guess we both had pretty weird pasts, huh? Was it huh or eh? Eh? I think by most standards our present is rather odd as well. I smile and hang my head. This woman can easily run rings around me, and of that I'm quite sure. I look back around the room with its continuing quiet hum of patrons. This place probably fits into the odd category too. It is a tad overbearing. That's one word for it, yes. I catch the eyes of a scurrying waiter, a short, scrawny guy no older than 20. He kind of reminds me of Kenji, though unlike him, the waiter isn't dressed for winter during midsummer. After a curt bow and an offer to remove our plates, Lily asks for the bill politely and softly. With expert coordination, he maneuvers around the tables, our plates in hand, to retrieve our bill. In no time, he reappears through the door, smartly handing our bill to Lily, who promptly hands it to me, causing me to raise an eyebrow. As I read the small computer-printed leaflet, the cost is considerably more than I expected. Hisao? Oh, I quickly stammer out the amount, to which Lily merely nods and reaches for her purse. Giving her card to the waiter, he disappears once again. That was a disproportionately large amount of money. The statement seems to make Lily slightly uncomfortable. My family leaves me more than enough for my education. The same goes for my sister, though she dislikes being reminded of that fact. That said, I too dislike throwing money about. But this one time I think I can make an exception, just for you. Not only did you choose our date, but you paid for both of us as well. I take the bridge of my nose to my fingers. I can't believe how high you have set the bar for our next date. She gives a small giggle. I'll be looking forward to it, Hisao. The waiter reappears beside us, as if by magic, and hands Lily's card back to her. Evidently picking up on her lack of sight, he places the card in her hand with an extra, perhaps unneeded amount of firmness to make sure of her grip. Leaving, he exercises a measured diplomacy by keeping a neutral face despite my own expression. Clapping my hands together, I stand up from my seat in order to bring an end to our night out. Shall we be off then, milady? Oh, the milady, classy. It would be great if I could finish Katawa Shoujo Lily's perspective, because I'm going to take a break for a while. I said that last time, and then I went right back in, like a couple days later. Yeah! I snap upwards out of my sheets and sit bolt upright in bed, as if an electric shot just had run through my entire body. The night air feels cold against the sweat on my bare skin, my breathing short and rugged nearly to the point of hyperventilation. Mind racing, I bring my hand to my head and attempt to soothe my body's panicked state. It takes me a number of seconds to realize my hand is shaking violently, even as I press it against my face. More seconds pass in complete silence, my desperate attempts to subdue my body and mind slowly, thankfully, working. Gathering myself, I start taking measure of the state I'm in. It feels like I've run a marathon, every muscle feeling tense and sweat practically pouring off me. No, I thought Kenji woke me up or something, you know? Why did I mess with my mic? No! Okay, whatever. That's good. I carefully direct my attention to the beating in my chest, measuring out the rhythm in my head. Sure enough, my unreliable heart is functioning properly for once. Just what the hell was that? A heart attack? A bad nightmare? Medicine side effects? I've heard about panic attacks, and this does seem to have hallmarks of one. I can't even be bothered thinking about it right now. I feel utterly exhausted, yet completely awake after this experience. I look over to the other side of my bed, the pale white of the silent figure's face almost glowing in the nighttime darkness of the room. Just the sight of her enough to calm me down significantly. Oh, I didn't know she was sleeping over. Her graceful demeanor persists even while she's sleeping, her perfectly measured breathing and gentle face making it impossible to tell whether she's awake or truly asleep. Giving in to the temptation, I delicately run my fingers over her hand. Her skin is soft to the touch, as it always has been, yet warm even in the cold night. It's at times like this, silently appreciating each other's presence, that I feel we're closest. My fingers stop at her wrist, and I bring my hands back down to the bed beside me. I'm not entirely sure why, but as we became even closer to each other, it felt as if something grew between us. I'm not entirely sure what it is, nor whether it existed before we'd fallen in love. Everything is moving so fast, I don't mind it at all, but it feels unlike Lily to be pushing things this much. Thankfully, there aren't any students milling around in the hallways at this hour of the morning, lest I be interrogated on why I'm carrying 2 plates of breakfast to my room while dressed in an obviously hastily donned uniform. That isn't to say things like this never happen, of course. A single security guard patrolling between 2 sets of bedrooms situated right next to each other is a very small force compared to the adolescent's hormone. Come to think of it, the fact that it's Monday morning probably helps. I'm not really sure why, but Mondays seem to bother me less than they do most others. It takes a little creative use of my hands and elbows, but eventually I manage to work the door to my dormitory room open. Stepping inside, I see Lily just getting up from the bed, entirely rubbing her eyes. She looks a mess, just like most other times I've seen her soon after she wakes. She really isn't a morning person. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. She groggily shakes her head. The morning light illuminating her makes for a very pleasant sight. It's okay, I needed to get up anyways. What time is it? I put my plate down on my desk and turn the clock around to check the time. Still early. Don't worry, there's still plenty of time left before school. She sits on the side of the bed and begins to sniff the air. As she does so, I quickly move her plate away and put it on the desk beside mine. Yes, I got us some breakfast. Shower and clothes come first, though. Oh! She stands still for a moment with her chin pointed slightly out. I gladly acquiesce and press my lips to hers, savoring the soft feeling before breaking off. With a small sweet smile, apparently quite satisfied, she slowly makes her way to the showers. I stretch to try and wake myself up a little more, briefly looking at the steaming dishes on the desk. Rice, fish, miso soup, and some vegetables, a standard breakfast for a somewhat unusual day. I grab the bottles from my desk and start taking my daily regimen of pills. Sometimes I wonder what these things are even good for, given all the troubles I've had since the initial accident. I can't even say what it doesn't hurt to take them, considering the side effects so far. Well, whatever. Doctor's orders are that I have to take them, and rationality suggests that I'd be well served to trust his judgment over mine. It doesn't take long for the noise of the shower to cease, a quick one apparently being fine for Lily given the circumstances. Emerging from the bathroom, she looks significantly more awake, having had a chance to collect herself. Without a word, I gently take her hand in mine and guide her to my desk, considering for a second I forgot she was blind. That's really weird. I don't have a table in my room. As she does, it'll have to do. Thank you, Sal. What did you prepare for breakfast? Just rice and some vegetables, something fast. Her face lights up at the revelation. That's quite a breakfast. This is normal for you? Now she's just being nice. I have little doubt, considering her past, that it isn't exactly a high-class meal by her standards. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Just because we're students doesn't mean we can't take it lightly. That's my belief, anyway. From what others I've talked to have said, I might be in the minority. I take a seat on the side of the bed and begin eating together with Lily, her chopsticks slightly tapping out of the outlines of the vegetables, just as I'd noticed her do during our date. This is quite nice, says Sal. I had no idea you could cook like this well. This time she's being more genuine. I can tell that much. That said, cooking really isn't anything special at all. After a bit of practice, it's pretty easy to make a simple dish. Most of the credit goes to modern technology. Still, after years of cooking for myself, I should hope so. I got bored of eating instant noodles and ordering pizzas every time my parents were both working, so I taught myself how to make a few meals. I'm still trying to get the knack of it, though. You'll make a good wife someday, Hisao. I take a grain of rice and place it onto my thumb before carefully taking aim and giving it a good flick. Lily jumps a little as it hits her cheek right on target. I can't help chuckling a little at her expense as she lowers her brow and tries her best to assume a harsh and serious expression. Oh, that's right. What is it? Did you have any problems sleeping last night? You seemed restless. So she was awake back then, or at least partly so. Whether it was my heart or a nightmare caused by the side effects of my medicine, the last thing I want is for her to be worrying about me even more. Even before my relationship with Lily, I felt my body was a drag on everything I did. My body is my burden alone, so as long as I'm with her, I'll continue to act normally as possible. And I am going to get a drink of water, so I'll be right back.